Oh my god, so yeah, what you're doing is justifying using human shields. That is what you're doing. Yes, if they didn't use human shields, they would get attacked. By the way, that is an acknowledgement that Israel tries to minimize civilian casualties because you're saying the fact that they co-locate with civilians makes it less likely that they'll get attacked and bombed. That means Israel cares about the civilians dying. But how would you do things differently? I would not co-locate with civilians. First of all, if I were Hamas, I would release all the hostages and surrender. I don't know what your argument is there, buddy. What you're doing right now is just justifying a war crime. That's all you're doing. I don't think there's actually a system of Western values that we strictly adhere to. Yes, chemical bombing your political opponents is bad, but slaughter of millions is also bad. And that's what our actions have amounted to. But as collateral damage, not as intentional civilian deaths, right? The day-to-day reality of the way the war was conducted was not moral. I would not necessarily disagree with that. What do you mean false?
While the economists who were recommended by the United States, by the U.S. State Department.
What are our expectations of being a man who was a citizen with privilege to vote? What's that? Well, I mean, if we get, like, the problem is, I understand the, like, fucking, voting without without having to enlist in selective service, but, like, it's just, like, do you really want women in the military? Civilians were targeted. WikiLeaks revealed this. What do you mean by targeted? There may have been, there were definitely, like, cases where, like, troops on the ground did that. Sure, that was fucked up. Like, we did the Abu Ghraib prison, right? That was fucked up. But as a matter of policy, we didn't target civilians.
Wreaked havoc on the Russian economy. America also supported the Chechen separatist rebels factions.
You're going to write longer openers for these panels?
We're sorry, we didn't target civilians for the purpose of targeting civilians. We may have engaged in some morale bombing, but the purpose of that wasn't to kill civilians. Morale bombing's still bad regardless. It was just, yeah.
So the openers, not for this one anymore. I just gotta get it in the back and forth. I don't want to write like another 12-minute opener for.
Hostage crisis, the Piromaisk, and Khazar terrorist attacks.
If I were you'd be correct. I would not want women to be drafted, nor would I support. Why would you not support suffrage for them?
In each one of these events, hundreds of Russian citizens were taken hostage, and hundreds more died.
Do you think women's lives are better or worse if they don't have a right to vote? Like, I don't understand.
He dealt swiftly and decisively with the oligarchs and organized crime.
Because if you think their life is better if they have the right to vote.
The Russian economy. Regardless of the ongoing conflict with the Chechens.
Because I don't see any good reason why. Because their lives are better if they have the right to vote, right? Isn't that a right that their lives will be improved if they have? I'm not really sure. What do you mean you're not really sure? Do you think men's lives are better when they have the right to vote?
U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, where he offered support as well as use of Russian military bases in the area.
That's so true. Based hollow hus.
Rebuffed by Bush-era policies that would simply be a continuation of Clinton-era military escalation. Russians began to see then, and now continue to see, Putin as the only thing that stands between them and the rapacious appetites of Wild West bankers and marauding hordes of Western-sponsored murderous terrorists. The real turning point, though, in modern U.S. and Russian relations happened in 2008. The Bucharest Declaration, a set of resolutions...
Fairly sure, however, I would see it as more likely that men's life would improve by being able to vote. Why?
Waiting to accept Georgia and Ukraine into membership.
You know, I don't understand. Why don't you think women's lives would have gotten better if they have representation in government? Like, I don't. By the way, chat, exclamation point Minecraft in the chat. Public Minecraft server. You can join if you want.
Director was the U.S. ambassador in Russia. In January of that year, he met with the. Oh, there we go. My partner will now elaborate more, so take it away, Connor.
Okay. Neither Russia nor the Russians are the enemies of the
just makes it seem like women are in general far worse at
what?
Even if they're worse at it than men, doesn't their life still get better regardless? Even if it even if they're worse at making their lives better than men are, this seems like it's still. Yes, Israel also doesn't target civilians, but rather they have a very loose standard for establishing what is a threat. And have a policy using maximum destructive force to kill a single target. Also, they turn a blind eye to flagrant ethical violations of the policy. I wouldn't necessarily agree with any of that. The U.S. to a lesser extent is guilty of the same, at least. But because of the scope and duration of the war, the death toll is far greater. I mean, sure, I would agree with like most of that. Yeah, I would agree. Like there were like. Israel definitely has a high standard for the amount of like collateral damage they're willing to accept. But even like Israel runs their phone bank, and they like call buildings and tell people to evacuate before they bomb them, and then they have their MAG corps, and the MAG corps are literally lawyers that Israel consults before doing airstrikes. They literally consult lawyers to see if airstrikes are proportional or not. Like it seems like they try to adhere pretty strictly to proportionality and to targeting. Now, the troops on the ground sometimes fuck up, and they sometimes, probably because of poor training, do to like kill civilians, right? Like there was the March of Return, where like during like a peaceful protest, not all the March of Return was peaceful, mind you, but during like a peaceful protest, like the IDF killed like 200 people that they probably did not have justification for doing that, but that's a matter of poor training, not a matter of like policy or intent. It's just like, yeah, if when it comes to the moral standing of perpetrators, intentions matter. If the IDF had perfect weapons, there wouldn't be any civilians dead in Gaza. If the U.S. had perfect weapons, there wouldn't have been any civilians dead in Iraq. If Saddam Hussein had perfect weapons, all the Kurds would have been dead. Because he genocided the Kurds. Like, his own civilians would have been dead.
Fervently opposed by Clinton's own Pentagon chief at the time, and the most respected foreign policy so-called graybeards among the men who led the previous Cold War. To name a few: George Kennan, Robert McNamara, Paul Nitze, Ambassador Jack Matlock.
What would you say some main natural rights are? Like the right to property, the like free speech. I should remember more of them. Poor training isn't what's responsible. The policy. I mean, poor training is definitely responsible for some of them. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe not all of them, but like the Flower Massacre, like that was a result of poor training. Land, liberty, property, true. Poor training policy is one of destruction. So when you say, oh fuck, I was paying attention. The view of what proportional is simply fucked. It's hard to know. So there are definitely cases where I will say like Israel definitely accepted way too high of a standard for collateral damage. Like look at the Jabalia refugee camp strike. That was like one Hamas member killed to 120 civilians or something. That's obviously kind of fucked. But it's hard to know, especially because Hamas literally stations itself in civilian areas. So.
Gene Kirkpatrick, Sam Nunn, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, Bill Bradley, and John Warner. Susan Eisenhower and 50 of America's most acclaimed foreign policy leaders, including some of the above, signed an open letter urging Bill Clinton not to go through with the planned NATO expansion. Since then, both parties have continued, both American political parties have escalated a persistently hostile anti-Russian foreign policy.
I don't know all your positions yet, so I don't know if you're not racist yet, man, but that could definitely happen.
NATO waged an illegal war in Kosovo against Russia's allies, the Serbs. The war
assuming UVC voting, Jesus, I can't read. I would assume we see voting in free and fair elections in some kind of structure resembling liberal democracy for most people of a certain age, irrespective of sex and race, on with perhaps some kind of relatively easy, basically, if you uphold the right to land, liberty, and property. The entirety of Gaza is a civilian area. It's not a large place. That's my point. That's my argument. Is that there are no military installations in Gaza. Hamas operates exclusively out of civilian infrastructure or under it in tunnels. That's why Israel uses their 2,000-pound bombs, because that's what can penetrate through into basements of buildings where Hamas is.
And began the new Cold War we are hopelessly enmeshed in today. Thousands of people were killed. The U.S. bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. And NATO Supreme
your right to vote in free and fair elections is a right derived from your natural rights. If I felt like there was a better structure of government that could uphold those natural rights, how else would Hamas do it? Hamas is not forced to co-locate itself with civilians. There are places in Gaza where they could station military installations. They They are not forced to operate. No, they're not, bro. What do you mean? No, they're not. Gaza is densely populated, but there are empty areas in it. That is retarded. No, it's not. Hamas is not forced to operate out of the basement of buildings. That's retarded. Genuinely, what do you mean, bro? Yeah, I would say voting itself, like, if I felt like there was a better structure of government that could uphold natural rights. Think about what you're saying, bro. Go to satellite imagery in Gaza. You see how, like, there's space here, bro. There's not buildings absolutely they are not forced to operate out of the basement of buildings. Yeah, and they're especially not forced to operate out of, like, things like schools and mosques. They don't have to do that, man. Hamas has the resources. Hamas could build its own building. It would get nuked instant. Oh my god. So yeah, what you're doing is justifying using human shields. That is what you're doing. Yes, if they didn't use human shields, they would get attacked. Yes, that is true. That is true. If they didn't use human shields, they would get attacked. Yeah. Okay, so basically, yes, I am a liberal. Bro, look, I mean, this is farmland, but, like, it's not like there's no empty space. No? What do you mean? That is what you're doing. If you're saying, well, if they didn't use human shields, she's saying if they didn't operate out of basements of buildings, they would get attacked. Like, yes, that's how it works. They get attacked even if they operate out of basements of buildings. But what you're doing is saying co-locating in civilian areas makes it less likely to get attacked. Yes, that's true. By the way, that is an acknowledgement that Israel tries to minimize civilian casualties, because you're saying the fact that they co-locate with civilians makes it less likely that they'll get attacked and bombed. That means Israel cares about the civilians dying, because if Israel didn't care about civilians dying at all, then there'd be no difference between Hamas operating out of civilian areas and Hamas not operating out of civilian areas. If you're acknowledging the reason Hamas co-locates with civilians is because it makes them less likely to be bombed, that means that Israel doesn't want to bomb civilians. What you're saying is that when Hamas co-locates with civilians, they're less likely to get bombed because Israel recognizes there's potential harm to civilians and tries not to harm those civilians. I don't understand. What you're doing. You're justifying the use of, as much as it is like a meme term, and we can debate, like, I don't like the term of human shield because that's like comic, because it literally, like, when people think of human shield, they think of, like, literally holding someone in front of you, right? And, like, I think the term human shield is like kind of comical, because that's not what Hamas does. It just co-locates itself with civilians. And also, human shielding implies a very specific intent to shield. It's a human shield with extra steps, true. It's a practical requirement. Bro, I don't know what to tell you. Look at the satellite imagery. There are plenty of empty spaces where Hamas is not forced to operate exclusively out of civilian areas. Given the size of Gaza to be an effective military force, there's no other reason. You are justifying human shields. You're saying that in order for Hamas you're just saying Hamas has to commit war crimes to be a good military force. That's what you're saying right now, bro. That's what you're saying. You're saying if Hamas didn't commit war crimes, well, then they wouldn't be as good of a military. Like, I don't understand. Plenty of empty space. Hamas could build military installations if they wanted to, but they don't. And they're definitely not forced to operate out of mosques and schools, and I know, in the meme one, hospitals. Like all your arguments with, like, equally apply. I remember when Israel bombed a UN school because, yeah. Let's say you're a Palestinian, you were mad pissed about Israel slaughtering your family. You join, you work hard up there. How would you do things differently? It is a war crime to defensive forces have to take passive precautions to not co-locate with civilian objects and military objects, okay? What you're doing right now is just justifying a war crime. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing, bro. That is what you're doing. But how would you do things differently? I would not co-locate with civilians. First of all, if I were Hamas, I would release all the hostages and surrender. I don't know what your argument is there, buddy. But there is no. This is such an insane talking point, my guy. If I was Hamas, I would build a military installation here instead of operating out of. Okay, lol, agree to disagree. What do you mean agree to disagree? You're justifying a war crime. Can you admit that's what you're doing? That's what you're doing. That is factually what you are doing. Stop launching rockets in Israel. Make peace with them. Start establishing. Yeah, like. I'm so. Like if I was Hamas, I would surrender and release the hostages. That's what I would do. That's yeah. At least any of the hostages that are still alive. Especially don't send your troops into Israel to kidnap. Yeah. You're not justifying war crimes. Israel is committing war crimes that you seem willing to tolerate. I don't say Israel has to commit war crimes. Israel does not have to commit war crimes. Israel should stop committing war crimes. What you're saying is Hamas should continue to commit war crimes. I don't justify war crimes. Yeah, I don't understand. I will point out the differences in intentions behind war crimes. Even when Israel does commit war crimes, it arguably does so with the intentions of minimizing civilian casualties. Yeah. What other choices Israel have? True. Israel doesn't have to commit war crimes. Israel could stop committing war crimes, and Israel should stop committing war crimes. I don't want to justify them. I don't justify. I can get. There are different. I will point out there are different reasons why Israel commits war crimes and Hamas commits war crimes. Hamas does it as a matter of policy. Hamas literally stationed. It's not a war crime to kill civilians. Israel is not committing a war crime when it bombs that. When it does that, Hollow Husk. It's not a war crime to. You can't decide. Bro, I don't understand. Yes, you can. Hamas intentionally co-locates because it makes them less likely to get attacked. Bro, yeah, literally. What is stopping them from doing that? Look at this. There's no one living here. Right here. Put a military base here. Right here. There's nothing here. It's sure it's densely populated, whatever. But like there are empty space. Hamas is not forced to do it. Hamas is not forced to commit war crimes any more than Israel is forced to commit war crimes. Don't get it, man. Oh, true. Well, see, there's actually, yeah, I was about to say, this is where all the tunnels are. It's not even like Hamas doesn't even have the ability to kick people out of their home. Hamas will take Palestinian civilians hostages. As prisoners, if they think they're collaborating with Israel. It's not like Hamas doesn't have the ability. There are certain logistical reasons that require them to be around infrastructure systems. Like you need power and ventilations. Bro, oh my fucking god. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand this take that Hamas literally, feasibly could not establish a base anywhere else than co-locate with civilians. I don't understand. If Hamas has to be in a building, why don't they kick all the civilians out of that building? Because they could not. Bro, they literally could. I don't understand how you think anything, if Hamas doesn't have the ability to, Hamas literally built tunnels! They built tunnels! You're gonna tell me they have the ability to build tunnels everywhere, to build miles of tunnels, and they don't have the ability to build a building that they use as a military base? But they can build basements and tunnels under building. Like, I don't. And it's still bad and illegal to use human shields, even if there's no feasibility. Like if you're doing warnings, your duty to provide warnings for people to evacuate have a feasibility thing attached to it. You only have to do it when it's feasible. That's not true for human shielding. Hamas doesn't get to do anything. It is the reality of the situation. Bro, you're justifying what Hamas is doing. I don't know what to tell you. Look, right here. bro. Why don't they build something here? Right? This empty space here. Right here. Or is this a graveyard? That's what it looks like. Oh, it's I don't know what this is. My brother cries. Okay, there's so much empty space here. So much empty space here. Was it a lemon or? I mean, it looked like some type of, yeah. Empty space here. Half of this area, like this is all. Well, I have a hard time buying the mod. What do you mean? It's not profit. What do you mean propaganda? Loss, 10 Jews, dad, phone.
الو يابا يابا انا قاعد اكلمك من جوبا بسيم افتح الواتس تبعه قول له وين شوف كيف القتله شوف كيف قتلت بايدي يابا ابنك قتل يهود هاي دخل فلسطين يابا الله اكبر ربنا يحميك يا رب ربنا يحميك يابا ربنا يحميك يابا.
Talking to you from a Jewish woman's phone. I killed her and her husband. I killed 10 with my own hands. Dad, 10 with my own hands. I wonder who's the bad guy. I wonder, man. Morally gray? How is this morally gray? He's literally bragging. Oh shit, I'm dying in Minecraft. He's literally bragging about killing Jews. He's bragging about killing 10 civilians with his own hands. He's celebrating it with his dad. It's not like it's so fucking. I'm convinced now Hamas should use more human shields, true. Well, that's what I came back to. Yeah, oh, you missed a lot of stuff, man, about, oh, man. There's so much stuff that you missed. It's, yeah, we have Hollow Husk, new IDF shield in the chat, though. Hollow Husk. Let's stuff Hollow Husk. New IDF shield. Yeah, anyone familiar with the history should be able to understand motivations. What the? I don't. When you say understand motivations, bro. Israel has had Hamas launching rockets into its country for 20 fucking years, killing civilians. Okay, does that justify the IDF killing civilians? Obviously not. Obviously, the IDF is not justified when it kills civilians just because Hamas has been launching rockets into its country for 20 years. Okay, so this is crazy. Just because Israel blockades Gaza. Even if you want to say the blockade is collective punishment, that does not justify when Hamas kills civilians. That doesn't justify this. That doesn't justify this. I don't get it, bro. Bro. I don't get. That doesn't justify this. That doesn't justify. That doesn't justify. It doesn't justify it. I didn't say justify it. That's what you're doing. You're justifying it. When you do that, you're justifying it. If you just like that doesn't make it okay and justify it. Like it just. By the way, hello, it's a public Minecraft server. I don't know if I told you that. I might have already told you that. It's a public Minecraft server. Anyone can join. I disagree. What do you mean? You're literally saying Hamas has no other option but. Oh shit. I was about to use human shields. That's what you're doing. You're justifying them using human shields. All right, bet I'll join. Oh, and the Discord server too is exclamation point Discord. But yeah, like, see, I don't get it, man. I don't get it, man. What do you disagree with? Just saying that's what you did. You're saying Hamas has to commit war. You're saying that they're forced to co-locate with civilians, which isn't true. They don't have to do that. They don't have to do that, man. They don't. Here's a question: do they have to put the hostages in the hospital? True. The APAC propaganda. You can only get deprogrammed. I don't understand. It's not APAC propaganda to say that Hamas is forced it's not forced to co-locate with civilians. They don't have to do that. That's a choice. They're doing that. Did they here's the question. The IDF warned northern Gaza to evacuate, right? Was Hamas forced? Were they forced to tell civilians not to evacuate? Because Hamas did that. After the IDF said evacuate northern Gaza, Hamas told civilians not to leave. Was Hamas forced to do that? Did they have to do that? Not was it justified? Did they have to do that? Is every pro-Palestinian argument they just say something factually incorrect and fun? Yeah, I don't. It's whatever. I don't understand. Did they have to do that? It seems like that was a completely voluntary choice that they did with the intention of increasing the number of civilian casualties to either look good in a propaganda war, or they did with the intention to shield behind those civilians because they knew it would complicate IDF operations there. I mean, if you actively support IDF, I don't think you... I think you have brain rot. What do you mean actively support IDF? Check your meme channel on Discord. True. I mean, this is from the IDF, so I don't know. Maybe it's all. Maybe this is AI generated doctored footage or something. But like,
let's rewind. It's October 7th, Israel. This man, the many hostages.
I just want the original footage of the hostages that they took to the hospital because they did that, right? This.
Video, they say, shows Hamas militants bringing hostages from Israel into Gaza's largest hospital. This video here allegedly recorded just hours after that horrific October 7th terror attack. The IDF also sharing drone footage saying it reveals a Hamas tunnel more than 30 feet below Al-Shifa Hospital. All of this as efforts intensify for a deal to release some of the hostages.
Tonight, the Israeli military releasing new video they say shows Hamas militants bringing some hostages into Gaza's largest hospital. Israel saying this surveillance video shows Hamas moving a wounded hostage into Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital on October.
Diplomatically, what? Sorry. How's Israel supposed to respond? Israel's supposed to respond diplomatically, and we're special for. I mean, they. When you say special, the point of special forces is to minimize civilian casualties. Okay. It seems like Israel tries to minimize civilian casualties, which you yourself admitted because you said that it makes it less likely for Hamas to be attacked if they use human shields, if they co-locate with civilians. Like, it seems like Israel tries to use... and I don't even understand when you say diplomatically. What does that mean? Hamas literally violated the ceasefire they had, right? There was a ceasefire with Hamas on October 6th, and they broke it. It doesn't seem like Hamas. I think Hamas has to go, man. Seems like they are quite literally like a genocidal force. Like, their charter basically call it, you can't negotiate with terrorists. I mean, like, it doesn't seem like a permanent ceasefire for Hamas would ever last because they reject an Israeli state. It's not like. When you say terrorist state, what do you mean by that? Like, Israel definitely done bad things. But like, that's just not, like... Are you Jewish? Jesus, man. Like, it's just not, like, relevant here, man. Well, Orthodox Christians pay you the same thing, because if you're a Christian, you think that you should control their homeland until their fucking rapture happens, duh. So yeah, exactly. I knew he was going to say that. I don't understand. Well, true. What does Zionist mean to you, Hollow Husk? Because they're different. Because Zionist means different things to different people. I mean, the Jews have a right to their homeland. But like when you say that, like are you in support of a two-state solution, or are you, or do you think Israel's just annex all of the West Bank and Gaza eventually? One state run by both groups. What do you mean by that? You'd have to. I mean, like when you say ran by both groups, you just mean a democracy. Or do you mean like a federal state? One state run by both groups. It sounds like two states with extra steps. I mean, it depends. It's like there's different. The problem is a one-state solution has like never been like taken that like seriously. Like all of the negotiations have been over two-state solutions, right? Ever since the original partition, there's never been like negotiations for a one-state solution. So like we don't. So like it's just not like realistic. So we don't like know like what that solution would look like necessarily. Makes it their homeland? Oh no. Regardless, it doesn't even matter. This is fucking irrelevant, okay? Whether or not it's their homeland. They're there now, okay? They're there now. They're there now, okay? I have nothing to learn from a Zionist, so I'm out for now. We're beating a dead horse. No, but it's so fun. But it's so fun. It's so fun, man. It's so fun.